Kamala Harris's foreign policy and approach to big issues on the horizon, like Israel, for example, may not significantly diverge from President Biden's current policies, despite some nuanced differences. Biden's administration has strongly supported Israel's right to defend itself, while also acknowledging the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Harris, while sharing this stance, has shown a tendency to emphasize the humanitarian aspects more prominently. She's been more vocal about the humanitarian impact of the Gaza conflict. She's criticized Israel directly for not doing enough to mitigate the humanitarian catastrophe, and she suggested that the potential consequences for Israel could escalate if its military actions continue in Gaza. Her perspective on Israel is shaped by the post-1990s era, focusing on a stronger and more confident Israel that had sought peace. In contrast, Biden's views are rooted in the post-Holocaust reality, seeing Israel as a new nation, a vulnerable young nation facing existential threats. While both Biden and Harris support Israel's right to self-defense, Harris has at times been quicker to voice concerns and criticism over Israel's actions that could exacerbate the humanitarian situation in Gaza. And the rhetorical difference may suggest a slightly tougher stand that she would take on Israel's military tactics rather than what Biden has done so far. She's also quite confident about the bedrock of Jewish support that she has, partly because her husband is Jewish, her husband Doug Emhoff. He's been a vocal advocate against anti-Semitism, as has she, further strengthening her ties with Jewish voters. Her emphasis on the humanitarian concerns in Gaza is something that comes from a position of strength, therefore, alongside her unwavering support for Israel's right to exist. And it mirrors a nuanced position that many Jewish Americans hold. I mean, she doesn't go as far as Miriam Margolyes, but she is critical. And what I think is so interesting about her position there is that she's attracted a number of high-profile and very possible Jewish running mates for the vice presidency, should she be endorsed by the Democratic convention. Josh Shapiro, who has a strong Jewish identity, highlighted by his use of, I think, 3 Hebrew Bibles placed on top of each other during his swearing-in ceremony, his public observance of Shabbos, and he's been vocal, like her, against anti-Semitism. He has a track record of fighting against discrimination, promoting Jewish values, and his heritage and his swing state status make him a strategic choice for appealing to Jewish voters and securing that critical electoral community. J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, again a member of a prominent Jewish family, and he's been a staunch critic of Trump and has supported numerous Jewish causes. His governance is in a solidly blue state, and his advocacy for progressive policies align well with Harris's more nuanced campaign. And while his wealth, he comes from a very wealthy family, and states political leaning might not provide a strategic electoral advantage, his established political stature and strong Jewish identity could bolster Harris's support among Jewish voters. And the third person is Mark Kelly, who is married to the former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, who is Jewish, has strong ties with the Jewish community, and he's consistently supported Israel. And so these these people, if aligned with the with Kamala Harris in her ticket, they would offset the more critical note that she's taken with respect to Israel, and help to provide that more nuanced and balanced approach to her foreign policy, which I think would be refreshing. She is a strong supporter of NATO and Ukraine. Like Biden, she maintains a staunch support for NATO, backing Ukraine in its fight against Russia. She's reiterated the US's ironclad commitment to NATO's Article 5, criticized Russia's actions in Ukraine. I will come on and I will do a video shortly about this idea that is often promoted and is often seen in the comments section in the YouTube here, where Russian propaganda has put out the idea that NATO agreed not to move further east, not 1 inch further, and there's no record of this. The only record of this is in something that Gorbachev remembered or said. There's nothing written down. There is no record of anything actually being said. So this idea that everybody repeats what is a known fact is not a known fact. It's a piece of Russian propaganda, and people are taken in by this. But then I think a lot of people who are promoting this idea are either Russian bots, or are indeed one or two individual trolls who operate under 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 diverse names. It's always very interesting when that person goes on holiday and suddenly all of those names disappear. Harris's stance on China aligns with Biden's, focusing on confronting Beijing's influence while seeking areas of cooperation. She's participated in significant diplomatic engagements in the Indo-Pacific region, which underscores the administration's focus on countering China's territorial ambitions, and I don't think she'll take a different view should she be elected. As for Iran, I think she'd be expected to hold a firm stand against Iran, continuing the current administration's tough stand on Tehran's nuclear program. Analysts don't foresee any major shifts in policy unless Iran shows readiness for serious concessions, which it may. With a change of leadership comes a new dynamic. The challenges are things like the US-Mexican border, where she faces significant challenges with the immigration portfolio that she's been concerned with, and the situation at the US-Mexican border, which remains a critical campaign issue, but also a critical issue in the in America. I think it's also a global issue. I think we are fast approaching a point where we need to rethink how we define a refugee and how we define a migrant, and what rights a refugee has, what rights a migrant has, and so on. And this is about a call for a global redefinition of the Refugee Convention of 1951. Her approach to Israel and Gaza will be scrutinized by voters from both pro-Israel and pro-Palestinian perspectives. Her ability to balance these concerns while maintaining a consistent foreign policy will be crucial to any electoral success. But I think most importantly, her significance as the first black and Asian American vice president. She already holds a unique position in US politics, and her ability to engage with a more diverse voter group, including younger women and African Americans, could be pivotal in any election. And of course, we would hope she would maintain the special relationship between the US and the UK, emphasizing the close cooperation on various global issues, including security, trade, climate change. And I'll do a video shortly about her visit to the UK for Rishi Sunak's AI conference, which didn't really come to very much. But, it's we have to trawl through all this stuff because Kamala Harris is somebody who has been on the world stage, but has kept sort of in the background and has been relatively unnoticed. And now suddenly she is the focus of all attention, and we need to see what's going to happen to her. And I must say, the more I look into who she is, the more I like her. the more I genuinely like her. And I think that will be a sense that many people get as they look into the who is Kamala Harris.